Hello, students. This is assistance on the reference reading for Egypt, and on the back is ancient Greece. I am doing this on my iPad, and because we are reading this in class together and marking up the text, I'm not going to do that here. This is strictly a read-along if you want to access this document at home, again, in the privacy of your own home. So you're going to follow my cursor there as we go along. Ancient Egypt was home to some of the earliest civilizations. These civilizations developed along the Nile River, the longest river in the world. The Nile is the most important feature of Egypt's geography, and it played a major role in the creation and development of Egyptian civilization. Moving on to paragraph 2, which you would have marked in class. In ancient times, most of the population of Egypt lived either in Lower Egypt in the Nile River Delta or in Upper Egypt along the Nile River. Farming was made possible in these areas because of the rich silt deposited by the river. Major cities, as well as farming villages, also developed along the Nile. The largest cities in ancient Egypt were Thebes, Memphis, and Giza. Paragraph 3. The Nile River forms in Khartoum, Sudan, at the meeting place of the White Nile and the Blue Nile rivers. The White Nile provides the majority of the Nile's water. From Khartoum, the Nile flows northward to Egypt. At Cairo, the Nile fans out into its delta, a fertile area created by sediment from the river, deposited as the river empties into the Mediterranean Sea. As the Nile flows north through Egypt, it creates a thin strip of fertile land along its banks. This green, fertile land is in sharp contrast to the barren desert on either side of the river valley. Moving on, paragraph 4. Ancient Egyptians took advantage of the Nile's cyclical flooding and its rich sediments. They began sowing seeds in the mud after the floodwaters receded. Eventually, in order to gain the greatest benefit from the Nile's waters, the Egyptians developed irrigation systems that carried water from the river to plants in their fields. These systems enabled Egyptian farmers to plant crops beyond the river valley and keep them watered all season. The chief crops grown along the Nile River Valley were wheat, barley, vegetables, and flax. Egyptians made bread and beverages from the wheat and barley, which were stored in large silos. They wove flax into linen. Egyptians also raised animals for food and to work the fields. Cattle, sheep, goats, pigs, ducks, and geese were common domestic animals. A particular breed of cattle was raised for meat, while another was used for milk. Egyptians also bred hunting dogs as well as a type of fat-tailed sheep which they used for its meat and milk. The Nile region provided more crops than the Egyptians needed for themselves. They were able to trade their surplus crops for goods they desired from other parts of African and Southwest Asia. That should say Africa, sorry about that. Southwest Asia, including Mesopotamia. The main Egyptian exports were wheat, barley, papyrus, and linen. In exchange, Egyptians received the resources they needed to make tools, build ships, and create jewelry and art. I hope this helps you on your education journey.